Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Forerunner class General Combat Craft. My name is Wimpomania, and I am the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and Chief Dumbass behind the Forerunner class project. Now, some of you who are familiar with my tours will notice I left out the word update there. This is not an updated vehicle. It is itself original, so there is no original vehicle to show you. You'll be happy to hear. Which means the first segment of this video will be its role and its task equipment. So its role is a civilian combat craft for general use, which means it's used for basically everything, and I will cover at the end and under the other info bit why it was built. But I basically found I needed a smaller combat craft for civilian use, something that was smaller than the Raider, the apprentice class Raider, I mean. And so I built this, and to facilitate its task it has plenty of fixed weapons and the maximum allowed of Gatling turrets. Okay, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next segment is going to be its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. Okay, it's propulsion, starting with its forward thrust. As you can see, there are 4 on the back of each thruster nacelle on by default, so that means there are 8 in total large tier 2 thrusters for 4 forward acceleration. Braking and reverse is the same, 8 large tier 2s in the front of each thruster nacelle. For lateral thrust, she has 6 large tier 2s and 3 medium tier 2s. Obviously same on the other side as well. For descent, she has 4 large tier 2s and 4 medium tier 2s. So there's the two mediums, 4 mediums when you count the other nacelle. There's 2 of the 4 larges, and there's the other 2. Right, so for lift, she has 8 large tier 2s and 4 medium tier 2 thrusters. So there's 4 of the larges. Obviously the 4 on the other side will make it 8. Those who know will know. And then the 4 mediums are at the front in these kind of wing formations. Right, yeah, that's it. So, oh no, it also has a head full function that turns on the other 4 forward acceleration thrusters, 4 forward. Ha 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 ha. And then max lift, there is another 4 large tier 2s set to max lift. Okay, so its mobility then, starting with its maneuverability, it'll accelerate forwards at 28 meters per second squared, reverse is the same, lateral is very nearly the same, 27 meters per second, it'll descend at 22 and ascend at 36. And that is with both max lift and a head full off. So a head full will turn the forward acceleration from 28 into 52, and the max lift will turn the ascent from, oh I forgot it now, from whatever it was to 50, from 36 to 50, there we go. Right, its agility, yaw 34 degrees per second, pitch 32, roll 52, again that's with both off. So a head full will change yaw and pitch. 34 from 32 and hang on. Huh. What a moron. There we go. Of course I turned the signals off to stop that ramp opening and closing. Right. now we can see the difference. So 34 yaw and 32 pitch. So 34 to 36 and 32 to 34. And then max lift will also change the yaw and the roll. So yaw, oh no, it changes the pitch, sorry, the pitch and the roll. So from 32 to 33, or from 34 to 35 with a head full on, and roll it increases from 52 to 58. Right, I'm a bit strapped for time, so I'm not going to show you how it flies. It's a bit more sluggish than I would have liked, but unfortunately I had to make some compromises due to weight and stuff, because as you can see there's a lot of weight that isn't being supported. And if I quickly show you the center of mass, it's balanced on those back landing gears just there. Oh, I should also say as well that it has 12 RCSs. It's I don't do many ships with RCSs, but this one needed it because it was sluggish, and it does have a warp drive. Right, so that'll be the end of that segment. The next segment is going to be its power, fuel and air. So as usual, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and then show you where it is later when I go inside. So power, it has 6 large generators. It also has 12 large fuel tanks and a pentaxid tank. It has 4 O2 tanks, 2 ventilators, an O2 station, and it has 2 compartments, the cockpit and slope, which you'll see later on, and the rear cabin. Right, that'll be the end of that segment. The next segment then is going to be its weapons, defences and construction. Okay, weapons then, as I said, it has the maximum allowed of 6 Gatling turrets dotted around, 2 at the back, 4 at the front. And they are set to what I consider to be my point defense targeting parameters. Although I think actually point defense now, thinking about it, shouldn't be predators as well, but I've left it on accidentally and I can't be bothered to change it now. No, I can't. I mean, most people I would imagine would turn it on anyway, so there you go, that's the targeting parameters. So life forms, ground troops and the weaponry of small grids. Yes, I actually think that's supposed to be my general purpose targeting parameters, and I've forgotten to rename it. Alright, I'll do that now. So it's going to be general purpose. Okay, so fixed weapons then. Obviously, this is intended to be swapped out as and when you need, but it comes with 6 Gatling guns, 4 pulse lasers for taking down shields, and 4 dumbfire rocket launchers. Defences then, she does have a shield, and she does have armour, quite a bit, and we'll have a look over at the construction to see where the armour is. So this is the unpainted one that I've been doing for a while now. As you can see, it has a structural frame made of hardened steel, as is patented with my builds. The frame is, rather than it being hardened steel specifically. The body is steel. There is a small amount of carbon composite dotted around. Mostly that's for the illuminated orientation panels. So the armour. So if we have a look in here, there is the core, and it is surrounded by hardened steel, so 3 by 3 by 3. Yeah. Then if we have a look in here, the hull is mostly 2 blocks thick. Now obviously there's some places where it's, oh no, okay, the thrusters come up to there, but then here it's also 3 blocks thick when you count that wall of the thruster nacelles. But there you go, that is what she's made of. As you can see, there's some hardened steel around the turrets. The landing gear housings are steel. Aye. Okay, there we go. I think we've had a good enough look at that and seen what she's made of and where her armour is, sort of. Right, that'll be the end of that segment then. So the next segment is going to be her resource gathering, production and storage. And this is going to be a quick segment. Resource gathering, she has none. Production, she has none. And storage, she has a single 2500 SU ammo container, 2 small cargo boxes, a mini fridge and an armour locker, and then that's it. Right, so that'll be the end of that segment, nice and quick. So the next segment is going to be its interior layout and any remaining devices. Okay, so starting with any remaining devices on the outside then, like I normally do, since outside is where we are at the moment, and then we'll do the inside stuff when we go inside, makes the most sense. So, landing gear, it has some. Now they are only midships of this one, but there you go, it has some, 3 on each side. Headlights, it has some of those too. That one and the top one here on the wings point forward, and then the bottom one on the wings are diagonal down. Detector is up here. Next I want to talk about the registry and name displays that you can see dotted around. Now I have picked a different colour for these because it's a combat craft, and I thought that bright white might not be such a good idea for something that's supposed to be combat. But yeah, so it's the darkest of the greys that's available. Right, so on the thruster nacelles, top and bottom, we have the main registry. And obviously, WM stands for Wimpomania, the line of which to this belongs. That wasn't quite the correct English, but whatever. It's the 15th one in the Wimpomania line, so hence the 15th. And then the number symbols at the end is supposed to be the number of which yours is. So if you have a look at the workshop and you see how many people have subscribed to it, and then add 1, that should be the number of which yours is, assuming of course that yours was the last one to subscribe, or you were the last one to subscribe to it. Of course it's all lore, L-O-R-E, so don't worry too much if you know that's incorrect. Of course you can also leave it as the number symbols if you can't be bothered, or you can replace it, siren gone, or replace it with a number that means something to you, like your house number or your credit card pin or something, whatever. So that's its main registry. Then we have the full registry and the class and type. So as you can see, the full registry includes the main registry, but it also includes extra information at the beginning. So WMF stands for Wimpo Manufacturing, that identifies the manufacturer, and then this middle bit identifies its type, so it's a civilian combat craft, specifically a general combat craft, and as you can see under the class name it also says general combat craft there as well. Again, if you can't be bothered to change the number symbols, please feel free to leave them, or like I said, change them into anything else. So the main registry appears there and there, and they are pretty obvious where the LCD projectors are for those. Likewise with the class and registry displays, they're always pretty obvious where they are. There's another one down here, and again it's just the one next to it. There is also another one on the back. As you can see, there's also a name display on the back. Now one of those is for one of them and the other one is for the other. You can simply click on them to find out which one it is. There you go, so the one on the right is the name. Now of course you can change the name to whatever you want. the ISSV Boaty oh my god, I couldn't pronounce that correctly. Boaty Boatface, there we go, if you want to. Of course, you can do the same up here too. And in case you care, ISSV stands for Intra-Star System Vehicle. That simply refers to any SV, small vessel, that has a warp drive that therefore allows it to jump around within a single star system. So there you go, that's what that means. Right, the Forerunner class is of course fully flight regulation lighting compliant, as are most of my builds. We'll start with the ones that are already going. So you can see some slow pulsing white lights around some parts of the ship. So there's basically one roughly on each corner. There's also an additional one midship center line that is offset by 50%. So if you see those ones go off, that one comes back on. I was looking at the wrong one. So they go off, that one comes on. It's, like I said, offset by 50%. So is the one on the bottom. And they are to let any observer know that the ship is powered and obviously switched on. Now, I did remember to mention this in the last tour as well. So that's really for when you use the power save. As you can see, turning power save on turns off a lot of things, including the name and registry displays. So it becomes less obvious that the ship is still using up fuel. And that's why there's the running lights are there, is to remind you that it's still powered. So that's those. Then we come on to the orientation lights, and we have two flavors. We have the illuminated orientation panels that act as the ship's formation lights. You can see those dotted around. Now they are, of course, red on the port, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. For those of you familiar with civil aviation, etc., formation lights and things. There is also yellow ones on the ventral side, the bottom, and they are to help you fly in formation, or other craft fly in formation with you, especially in low visibility. In lore, that probably doesn't happen very often in game, as it were. And then we have the navigation lights. So again, red on the port side, there and there, white on the stern, that one there, and green on the starboard, there and there. Although unlike the illuminated orientation panels, there is no yellow ones on the bottom. They are supposed to let observers know from a distance which direction the ship is facing or travelling. Then there are the anti-collision lights. Again, there are two flavours of those. There's the anti-collision beacons, and the ones that aren't on I will show you later on when I turn things on using the switches and signals and stuff. So don't worry about that. But anti-collision beacons, there are red ones on top. That one there, midship centre line, and then one on top of each nacelle, there and there. And they are, did I say red? Yeah, they're red. Well, they're actually light red. Up until quite recently, I was accidentally using the wrong red. I was using the full red and not the light red. So that's those. And then on the bottom, we have yellow anti-collision beacons. Again, one sort of roughly, actually it's not midships, it's right at the front, but whatever. And then on the bottom of each nacelle. Now those ones, assuming you use the device group shortcut for the propulsion, will turn on automatically with the thrusters. And that is to allow any observer to know that the thrusters are powered and the ship could therefore move at any moment. And that's IRL as well as supposedly in game, in lore. And then the second flavour of anti-collision light is the flight strobes, and those are the bright white flashing lights you see on the wingtips of planes. So I actually have two pairs of double flight strobes on this ship, and again we'll see that later on. So there and there obviously matching on the other side. I pointed, like you can see my finger. Look over there, guys. What's that over there? So they are to help with visual acquisition from a distance. As I always say, that doesn't necessarily translate very well into the game, because in game the ship is usually visible from a longer distance than the lights are. But whatever. So that's those. Right, so that's all of the lights. Now I'm going to phase into the gubbins to show you where stuff is, and we're first going to go into here. So all of this is container extensions for the ammo container under the floor here, under the ramp. I actually thought there was something else down there, but either I moved it while I was building, or it's a different ship I'm thinking of, but whatever. And then we go into the top above here, where we have the wireless connector, one of the tier 4 CPU extensions. There's the gravity generator, obviously the warp drive. Some of the RCSs are up here. There's the pentaxid tank, which is also accessible from below. There's the remaining 3 CPU extenders above the shield. There's the core, again, as earlier, surrounded by hardened steel, and all of the fuel is at the back. Now, it's possible that something shooting at the turrets there and there might detonate those fuel tanks, but there wasn't really a better place for me to put it. I did consider putting the core right at the back, like I would do with what I consider to be a non-combat vehicle, where I put the core right at the back, and therefore it's easier to kill without losing most of the rest of the vehicle, where, you know, all the expensive stuff is. But on a combat ship I tend to put it more in the middle, so it's less targetable. Yeah, so it was a case of that was the best place for the fuel. Right, let's go down then onto the ground here. So, as you can see, the ramp, the door, which is also technically a ramp, and that light, and those two up there are all on that motion sensor. There is a shutter hatch to access. Oh no! I've gotten so much better at making sure I painted everything before the tour. Damn it. Okay, I will do that afterwards. But there's the fuel up there. Right. Right. Oh, and the light green lights, as I'm sure some of you know, some of you are probably familiar with my builds. Oh, is that a problem? No, that is not a problem. Okay, good. So it was the fact that that force field from this ramp doesn't quite cover all of that RCS, but whatever. it's okay. So as we can see, it's quite sparse in here in terms of equipment. There's some more RCSs. There is 2 small cargo boxes above and below the armor locker. There is an O2 station on the other side with a O2 tank above and below it. Ventilator there for the rear cabin with a fridge on the opposite side. Then we go up the slope to the cockpit where we have... Oh, sorry, back here. Pentaxid tank access is up in the ceiling. So up here we have the ventilator for the slope and cockpit. As you can see, I've used one of the CPU extenders, the one right at the front, for a little bit of greebling in the ceiling, because obviously I could have put that ventilator somewhere else. And then this is the cockpit, and that is basically the entire interior. As you can see, as usual, the pilot gets some heads-up displays, including the shortcuts for the device groups and the signals, which I'm going to use to transition onto the next segment, which is its shortcuts and signals. Rightio then, as usual, please don't auto-group the devices because some of the device group shortcuts rely on the custom device groups to work, namely the anti-collision beacons and the propulsion and the max lift and stuff. Oh, I was already there, duh. So, in the device groups column, as usual, the first one is propulsion, etc. That will turn on all of what I referred to earlier as the default thrusters, and as I have said a couple of times now, the anti-collision beacons. So there was the red ones on top, there's the yellow ones on the bottom. Oh, and in case you care, so currently in present day NASA has yellow nav lights on the ventral side of their ships, the bottom, and I figured that when we start, you know, flying around in space as depicted in the game, that we would need ventral nav lights as well, and I figured that the yellow, anti-collision beacons as well, and I sort of thought that the yellow nav lights would evolve into yellow anti-collision beacons for the bottom, where it then acts as both, sort of thing. Blah blah. Next one down is max lift. So that will turn on, as I said earlier, the extra lift thrusters. Shush. Then we have weapons and shields. Again, you can't, for some reason, put an ampersand in the device group's names. I don't know why, because you can over here. Makes no sense whatsoever, but there you go. That will, of course, extend all of the fixed weapons, turn on all of the turrets, and it will, of course, power the shield generator, aka the polarized hull shield. Next one is blank. As usual, I tend to keep these in the same order for every ship, regardless of what the ship has. So, for example, there may have been... I think this one would have been emergency power, and then this would probably have been drills, for example. So, the next one down is artificial gravity. That will, of course, turn on and off the gravity generator, so that if you are in a gravity well, either a natural one of a planet or an artificial one of a space station, you can save some power by turning it off. And then finally is air vents. Now, just in case this is the first tour of mine you've seen, I will cover it, but as usual I will try to do it as quickly as possible in case this isn't the first one of mine you've seen. If we have a look at power save and turn oxygen off, it doesn't change, because although the ventilators are no longer blowing air into the vehicle, the ventilator blocks themselves are still powered. So I give you an air vent switch to turn them off, which means you can save some power in a breathable atmosphere. Oh, better come out of that for the right, and moving on to the signals column then. As usual, power save is the top one. So what power save does is shown on this heads up display here. It will turn off all of the motion sensors, the wireless connection, all of the LCD displays as well, and I'm pretty sure that's everything. The light green lights that are light green, that are lights that are on the back that indicate where the ingress point is, the in point, the entry point. So next is a head full. That will turn on the additional rear thrusters at the back here to give you an extra bit of acceleration and slightly more agility. Next one down is just the Gatling guns and the Gatling turrets. So I've given you that in case you need to take out like 1 or 2 drones and that's it, or like a spider or something, or you need food and you see a lizard mule or something. I didn't want you to have to waste power turning on all of the weapons and the shields, so I've given you that switch there. So the next two are the flight regulation lights. The nav lights, as I said, are the red on this side, the white on the stern, and the green on this side lights. And then the flight strobes are the bright flashy flashes. Flash, 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 flash. There we go. Next one down we have is the headlights. Obviously controls the spotlights on the front that point pretty much forwards, apart from, as I said, those ones are diagonal, but whatever. As usual, I give you a switch for that as well, because although when you're in the seat you can simply press your keybind on your keyboard, I'm pretty sure default is L for Lima. You can't do that if you're not in the pilot seat, of course. So if you get out of the pilot seat, you come out of the ship and then realise you've left them on, I didn't want you to have to go all the way back to the seat to turn them off. So you can, of course, do it with that. And finally, we have close hatches at the bottom. So if you are interacting loud with this or that. Oh, I forgot to show you that that is where the ammo box is. We saw it from underneath, but I forgot to show you about that. So if you accidentally leave one of them open and notice when you're in the pilot seat, I wanted to give you a way to close them. So as you can see, flicking that switch will close all three, and as usual, it will only close them, it won't open them again. Righto, so that'll be the end of that segment. The next segment is going to be CPU and upgrading. So, as you saw earlier, it is a tier 4 CPU. Oh, in case you're skipping around in the video, let's show you this. So the core is here, above that ramp-ish, and beneath this. The 3 of the 4 CPU extenders are above the shield in front of the core. The 4th one is right at the front here. And as you saw when this was open, it's roughly 71,500 out of the 100,000 you are allowed. Now it doesn't actually have an inbuilt upgrade path. There's no slots available to put extra stuff. But that doesn't mean you can't personalize it. Most importantly is that the weapons are intended to be sort of placeholders. So if you want to, that was a bit far more, wasn't it? Placeholder. So if you would like to replace some of the Gatling guns with, say, rail guns or plasma cannons, for example, feel free to do so. Maybe replace some of the dumbfire rockets with homing missiles, for example, that kind of thing. Of course, if you can think of anything else to do. So, for example, if you could find a spot, maybe here, you could slap an extra couple of weapons on it, pointing forward, if you're not too worried about how it looks, or maybe up here or something. Aye. So that's that. Right, yeah, that'll be the end of that segment. So the next and last segment is going to be any other info. Okay, so first of all I'm going to talk about the damage texture. So if we have a look inside, we'll see that the blocks that are covered are painted in such a way that if you lose a block, that looks like damage. I mean, to me that looks like smouldering metal, but it certainly looks more like damage. Why are you doing that? There we go. It looks more like damage than that does, in my opinion. Although you might notice that the block is missing, it doesn't look damage, it just looks missing. So that's why I do that. Then, since we have the paint tool out, I have given you a choice of the primary colours. So it obviously comes in the Wimpomania blue, but there is also the option of this camouflage green. Since it's a combat ship, I've given it a camo green. Right, that's those two things. Whoops. So, the naming conventions of the Wimpomania ships. I cover this in every video, just in case it's the first you've seen. I consider myself to be a noob at building, so all of the ships in the Wimpomania line are named either words that mean someone who is new at something, so synonyms of newbie, spelled N-E-W-B-I-E, as opposed to noob, which I consider myself N-O-O-B. Sometimes zeros, if you're speaking leet. So, yeah, words that are synonyms of newbie, someone who is new at something, or words that mean someone who is the first at something, or synonyms of those synonyms, which is why you end up with things like probationer and cadet and freshman and initiate and beginner and so forth. So Forerunner is of course one of those words as well, kind of. Like I said, it could be synonyms of the synonyms. Right, so the next... Oh, actually, blinkies. I need to talk about the blinkies first, and then we're going to go into orbit to the construction area. So, if you don't like the blinky lights, I've been covering how to deal with them if you don't like them. Now, obviously, the nav lights don't blink and the flight strobes do, but both of them, if you don't like them, you simply don't turn them on. And then we have the slow pulsing running lights that you can see going here. If you don't like those, you scroll all the way to the bottom of the device groups looking for regulation lights. That's what regulates stands for. And you simply, with the group selected, you flick the active switch to deactivate all of the devices in that group, and they will now be off forever because nothing turns them on apart from you. And then the anti-collision beacons that come on with the thrusters. Now, of course, if you're using this switch here instead of this one and this one and this one, by all means you can ignore this. Of course, I've split it up like this to help save power and such. But if you do use this switch and you don't like the flashy flashes, you come to anti-collision, which again is one of the reg lights. If the group is active, deactivate it and then remove this shortcut here. And so long as you have deactivated it, they will no longer come on. So there we go, that's that. Right, now I need to go up in orbit and show you something, so I'll see you up there. Okay, here we are in orbit at the construction area, and as promised, I'm now going to talk about why I built this now and why now. Why I built it and why now. So, I was building this. This is going to be the next ship. It was actually going to be the 15th. It is now, of course, going to be the 16th vehicle in the... Oh, hang on. Let's give you a bit of light. Did I not... Oh. I thought it was already off my helmet. Right, so this is going to be the next ship. It's a mining ship. It has a drill turret at the front. Now, as I was building this, and actually I had done some of the painting, so I was that far along. I'd done some on the outside, and I realised that the way this ship comes, if you go into a star system to mine some asteroids and you find some hostile craft there, without modification, this ship wouldn't be able to deal with the hostile craft itself. And I wanted to be able to carry around some kind of thanks mate, some kind of combat craft on the back here. The only problem is the only one really I've built is the Apprentice class Raider, and that is too big to fit up there. So I wanted something that was kind of beefy, quite well armed, but small enough to sit up there. And that's why I then did this now. Oh, and I wanted to mention quickly the design. So it clearly has a Wimpomania line style wraparound cockpit. It is, of course, quite small because it's a combat craft, but it sort of has that, and it's sort of a similar shape to that, and actually the Apprentice as well, sort of. It's funny how the Wimpomania line of design style has sort of evolved a little bit from This is one of the earlier ones, and now it's looking like this, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I like the fact that it's evolved. But there you go. That's why it's here now. As you can probably tell, I thought I'd finished with the SVs, and I've moved on to all of the CVs in the Wimpomania line. Except, I mean, luckily it was only one CV, and then I realised it needed another SV, so there was only one. But whatever. Okay, so that'll be the end of the tour for the Forerunner class civilian general combat craft. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.